Jack had always been a bit of a jokester. He loved making people laugh and had a natural talent for it. He started doing stand-up comedy when he was just a teenager, and by the time he was in his mid-20s, he was headlining shows all over the country. He had a reputation for being a bit of a wild card, though. He'd drink too much, get into fights, and make crude jokes at the expense of anyone who crossed him. One night, Jack was performing in a small town in the middle of nowhere. The audience was rowdy, and Jack was having a hard time keeping them under control. He started to get frustrated and began making some particularly nasty jokes. That's when he noticed a man in the back of the room, sitting alone, staring at him with a look of pure hatred. Jack couldn't help himself. He started making jokes at the man's expense, mocking his clothes and his hair. The man didn't react, but Jack could tell he was seething with anger. After the show, Jack was packing up his things when he heard a loud banging on the door. He opened it to find the same man from the back of the room, his eyes wild with rage. "What's your problem?" Jack asked, trying to sound tough. "You're my problem," the man spat. "You made fun of me in front of everyone. You humiliated me." Jack laughed. "Come on, man. It was just a joke. Lighten up." The man didn't seem to hear him. "I'm going to make you pay," he said, and then he lunged at Jack. They fought for what seemed like hours, rolling around on the ground, punching and kicking each other. Finally, Jack managed to overpower the man and subdue him. The man was arrested and charged with assault, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. He started having nightmares about the man, about his rage and his hatred. He started seeing him everywhere, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance to strike. And then, one night, the man appeared to him in a dream. He was a vengeful ghost now, haunting Jack for his cruel jokes and his arrogance. Jack tried to exorcise the ghost, but nothing seemed to work. He consulted psychics, priests, and even tried to perform the exorcism himself, but the ghost was always there, hovering at the edge of his consciousness. Jack's behavior became increasingly erratic. He'd drink too much, pick fights with strangers, and make even crueler jokes on stage. His friends and family tried to intervene, but he wouldn't listen. He was obsessed with the ghost, with finding a way to rid himself of it. As days went by, Jack became more and more paranoid. He felt like he was being watched all the time, and he started to see things that weren't there. The ghost seemed to be getting stronger, more real, and Jack couldn't escape it. He stopped performing altogether, afraid that the ghost would harm someone else. One night, Jack was walking home from a bar when he saw the ghost standing in the middle of the road. It was more vivid than ever before, and Jack could see the details of the man's face, twisted in rage and pain. The ghost beckoned to him, and Jack followed, unable to resist. The ghost led him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Inside, Jack found a group of people gathered around a strange altar. They were chanting in a language he didn't understand, and in the center of the altar, there was a glowing red crystal. Jack realized too late that he had stumbled upon something he shouldn't have. Before he could leave, the group grabbed him, tied him up, and dragged him towards the altar. Jack begged for mercy, but they didn't listen. They had found their sacrifice. Jack watched in horror as they lifted a knife to his chest, ready to carve him up for their dark ritual. In that moment, he realized that the curse that had been haunting his town was not supernatural at all, but the work of these people, who had been sacrificing innocent victims to a mysterious entity in exchange for power and wealth. As the knife pierced his skin, Jack's mind snapped. He laughed maniacally, his laughter echoing through the warehouse as he realized that the ghost haunting him had been a figment of his own guilty conscience all along. He had become the monster he had feared. The group finished their ritual, and Jack's lifeless body was left on the altar, a sacrifice to their dark master. The town never found out the truth behind the curse, and Jack's memory faded away into obscurity, just another victim of the innocent sacrifice.